Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight on our news. Why government says it cannot commit to a date for value-added tax cuts. The Chamber of Commerce says the new budget appears to be good for businesses. Police investigate the apparent drowning of an American visitor.
Well, families today are remorseful over that 7-year-old girl who went missing here at Long Wharf Beach.
Plus, an environmental activist says inaction on a reported fuel spill is unacceptable.
Our news is brought to you by Alive, the nation's newest and best LTE network.
Good to be alive.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Christina McNeil. Topping news tonight, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance Peter Turnquest says the government cannot at this point commit to a date for when it will fulfill its campaign promise of repealing value-added tax on breadbasket items. Turnquest says the government simply cannot afford to lose VAT revenue given the financial state the previous administration left the country in. Jasmine Brown reports.
No, that's not going to happen immediately. That's one of the trade-offs that we had to do.
When pressed, Turnquest said he could not say when that campaign promise would be fulfilled.
I don't want to give a timeline because I don't want you to come back 2 months from now and say he didn't do it. But I can tell you that we intend to live up that commitment, and we will be aggressively analyzing our situation over the next 2 months to determine exactly when we are able to fulfill that commitment.
On the campaign trail, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis pledged that his administration would repeal VAT on breadbasket items on all baby and children's clothing, electricity, water, as well as health coverage and insurance. As for why it cannot be done now, Turnquest says the government will delay its plan to repeal VAT on breadbasket items due to the extensive borrowing needed to cover the government's obligations.
Literally 2 days ago, I had to say, well, wait a minute, let's be conservative before we go giving out concessions. Let's make sure that we've got the house covered. We're already borrowing $323 million. We don't want to give an unrealistic expectation and then have to come back in the mid-year or sometime during the year to borrow more. And so, again, we ask the Bahamian people to bear the pain a little bit longer, share with us as we try to get this entire fiscal house in order.
On Wednesday, the government passed a resolution to borrow $400 million to cover the expected overrun of expenditure over revenue into 2016-2017 fiscal year. Another resolution was introduced but not passed to borrow another $322.4 million to cover the estimated expenditure that will exceed revenue in 2017-2018. Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Well, the Bahamas Chamber of Commerce and Employers Confederation is also weighing in on that controversial promise to introduce value-added tax exemptions and reductions. Chamber CEO Edison Sumner says more work needs to be done to see how such measures may impact the business community.
Talk about, which may be a little more controversial, about VAT exemptions, etc., and extensions of it. That is going to take a lot more discussion to go through because, as you may recall, we went through very extensive consultations and discussions on that when we were implementing VAT in the first place. So that I think it's a good, noble gesture to say that we want to do that, but I think it requires a lot more attention, a lot more time to properly assess that and see how well it's going to work and whether it's going to have any adverse impact on the business community.
The Chamber played a major role in consultation before value-added tax was introduced in 2015. Similarly, Sumner says the Chamber was consulted before the 2017-2018 budget was tabled in the House of Assembly last week. And Sumner says he believes there are quite a few elements businesses will be pleased with.
Some optimistic elements in it. We know that the government has its hands full in managing what they see as being a dire situation financially for the country. The Minister of Finance and Deputy Prime Minister used terms such as, the cupboard is bare. So we've got to look at this, right? And I think it's important for the private sector and the government to work together.
One such item is the proposed reduction in rates for business license fees.
The reductions are good. I think businesses are going to appreciate that reduction, especially those very large companies who are turning tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars a year. They're going to see, I think, an appreciable difference in their business license fees. But we also want to continue working on a revision of the business license infrastructure completely.
He adds that the reductions are a step in the right direction, but there's still a lot that can be done and recommendations that can be made in regard to the tax and fiscal infrastructure. The Chamber of Commerce is expected to make a full assessment of the budget and budget communication in the coming week. In other news, police are investigating the death of a man whose body was discovered after he apparently lost consciousness while snorkeling on Pearl Island today. The man is said to be a tourist from the United States, and he was snorkeling with family before being found dead. Senior Assistant Commissioner of Police Stephen Dean gives us the details.
What we do know is that shortly after 11, an American man was snorkeling in waters off Pearl Island, that's just off Paradise Island, when he lost consciousness and he was taken back on a boat. He was brought to shore where he was examined by a doctor and pronounced dead. So we are actively investigating this matter, and so as you know, we are only in the preliminary stages right now.
Dean urges those at the beach to stay vigilant and safe as waters can become dangerous.
Persons who are in waters, who are swimming, please use this time to exercise extreme care and caution. That if you even go into waters, that if you even go swimming, make sure that you had a good breakfast, had something to eat, and to ensure that you're well equipped and physically fit for these type of exercises.
Meanwhile, families were attempting to enjoy the last of the long holiday weekend despite a subdued atmosphere at some public beaches just days after a child tragically drowned Friday. April Sands tells us more.
Well, just like any other holidays, families come out to enjoy a day at the beach. But today is a different kind of atmosphere for children and parents alike as they remember a 7-year-old girl whose body was found along this shoreline just a few days ago. Parents we spoke to said they're still shaken by the tragedy and are taking no chances. One mother we spoke to was watching both of her kids swim, said she's normally vigilant in such situations, but the tragedy reminded her of how quickly things can go wrong in what is still a dangerous environment.
I sit as close to the water as possible. I don't take my eyes off her. She's the main focus.
Yeah. Do you think it's easy to get distracted possibly and when they're out there and they're moving around, they're swimming, they're underwater?
Yes, it is. But I mean, if they're the ones that you take here to enjoy themselves, they're the ones you should be watching and paying attention to. I don't think like anything else is more important than bring your child.
Automatically, when you have kids, it shouldn't be easy, it shouldn't be very easy for you to get distracted. But as parents, we should be more vigilant when it comes down to their whereabouts and ensure that they're not out on the deep. They're playing close near the shoreline. Well, my condolences goes out to the family, and there's no sorrow that God cannot deal.
The lifeguard on duty today, Philip Scott, spoke to us, and he said while they do the best they can as lifeguards, parents play just as an important role in watching their kids as they do on duty.
Yesterday really surprised me because Sunday is more of a beach day for the Bahamians, and yesterday was like just like this. Now I'm expecting a crowd because it's a holiday. Now what happened Friday, I'm sure it touched a lot of people in a way that they will have their eyes peeled when they come to the beach with their kids.
Do you notice parents being more
more. I noticed that. I noticed parents in the water now swimming with the kids, and some of them are out the cars and just in the sand, and that's good. I like that. I appreciate that because that's what we were fighting for a very long time.
Now, according to Scott, there were multiple lifeguards on duty that day. Eleanor went missing, but he says regrettably they weren't aware at the time.
We had 3 lifeguards out here.
That
we
day?
had 3, yeah. But we're not going to catch everything. I'm not going to lie. We're not going to catch everything. And we don't even know the time when the little girl went missing. All we know is around 7:42 they came to us when everything was dying down. They can't find someone, so we lend a helping hand the best way we possibly can.
While there was a mild turnout for the beach earlier today, parents say they can't begin to fathom the pain of a parent losing a child, but they said outings like these are important for the sake of their kids having a good time. Reporting for our news, I'm April Sands.
A candlelight teddy bear vigil has been organized in memory of 7-year-old Elnora Bullard. It's scheduled for 8 p.m. Tuesday night. Still to come on our news, a fuel spill in western New Providence threatens area wetlands and residents. The Prime Minister commends hurricane workers as the 2017 hurricane season begins, and politics takes the spotlight on stage. We'll tell you how. That's coming up when our news returns.